It's Owen and Julien Blanc sitting here on Hollywood Boulevard. And what we're gonna be talking about today is the importance of what we call meta-level awareness. And what that means is that for most of your life, you're sitting there in your head trying to think about your problems, your life, your bullshit, and not putting enough emphasis on thinking what other people are experiencing. Now, even when I say that, just in even saying that, like 90% of the people just clicked off this video. They're like, oh shit, thinking about other people? Right? But what you're not realizing is that the #1 sign of a fucking loser, of a low status individual, is their inability to consider what others are experiencing and to kind of deal with that. So what this video is gonna show you is actually how to increase your social status huge amounts. Huge, believe me. And the way that we're gonna do it is by showing you that getting out of your own shit for all of 2 seconds a day, all of a sudden, your actual perceived status is going to shoot up.
Here in Hollywood, recording with Peter from Family Guy, with the little bird. You ever seen that?
No, I haven't.
Peter.
I'm gonna take it as a big compliment, though.
It is. What are we talking about in the video?
We're talking about social calibration and getting out of your own bullshit and considering other people in such a way that will help your social status in a tremendous fashion.
Boom. So we got an intro shot, but we now lost the light, so brainstorming for a good place to film.
So I wanna ask you a question right now. Would you like to become one of those people who, whenever you walk in the room, everybody's like, oh, it's Julien Blanc, oh my God, oh, it's Julien. Oh, or would you like to be one of those people who's more like, yeah, Julien's coming, I know, sorry, right? And which one do you wanna be? Now, the reason I'm asking you this is because you may not be aware that this is really something that you can influence so easily when you just understand a couple simple things. And the reason that both Julia and I are very passionate about this is that the way that we built the company, a lot of times is through having great connections and insight from high-level people and being able to get into venues that we like to go to, and they could be hard to get into, and learning how to talk our way in. And from having different associates and different influences where really we're not rich at the time when we're coming up, we don't have a lot of social proof at the time when we're coming up, but the one thing that we do have is raw social skill, okay? Just raw social skill. So no, I don't care how broke you are, if you're not good looking, whatever it is, you have this one thing that you can choose to get down. So we're gonna be looking at it today from a standpoint, among many that we could be looking at, but the standpoint that we're gonna be looking at is, are you in a coping state of mind where you're just sitting there like, it's all about me, and people feel kind of a suck coming off of you? Or are you in a thriving mindset where energy is just like, it's coming out?
Nice to meet you, man. Zane,
Good to meet you, man.
How you doing? I started a company like a year and a half, and now we play you guys at our sales meetings like every week. We're over 100 people, like we're crushing it. And it's been really awesome, yeah, man. And I really do appreciate everything you guys do. I was having trouble with girls, but one of my biggest things was just being present in the moment, just being really, I've always been like a fast thinker and a fast talker, and I've never been present in the moment. And watching you has like changed my life.
Thanks, man.
So I started a solar company about a year and a half ago, and now we're a little over 100 employees. We're done 24 million in revenue. That's how I met with Ty. Honestly, it's been the biggest game changer for me.
So the average person, whenever they're interacting with someone, they're typically thinking 4 things. The first is, say we're talking, how does this relate to me? If you say something that just doesn't relate to me, and I'm your average Joe, I'm just gonna block it off. It's just like, oh, these chips here in this little vegan restaurant, if I'm not here and you're calling me, I'm just like, when is he gonna switch to something else that refers to me? When do we talk about me? My favorite topic. Okay, so how does this relate to me? Number 2, they're thinking, do I get it? So if you're explaining something, as soon as it clicks, oh, I got it, I'll just cut off the rest. You just don't listen to the rest. Number 3, when is it my turn to speak? And this one's huge, and I've seen it, you've seen it too for years, teaching guys how to interact with women. They're just waiting for their turn to talk. What about me? What about me? When do I talk? Okay, is she done? Is he done? Done. Okay? And number 4, am I being tested? Did I pass the test? These are the 4 things that your average Joe is thinking about whenever interacting with someone, thinking that it'll help that person, maybe be higher value or pass the test, when in reality, it just lowers your value. and people sense it immediately. If you're actually there present, like if we're talking, you'll sense immediately if I'm like listening to you or if I'm drifting off, like, oh, I got it. Oh, is he talking about, oh, me? You're just not there. You're just interacting with someone through these filters, and it just kills your value. It turns you into this very unlikable person. Just this little pest.
What you want to try is an experiment for 1 week, and this experiment is going to make you want to like blow your brains out when you see it. Where watch different conversations that people are having, and what you're going to see is that whenever you watch two people talking, you'd think that the two people are interacting, kind of having fun, and sometimes they are for sure. It definitely happens. Sometimes alcohol is involved. It helps them to do that, but one person's talking to the other person, and you can see that little hamster in the person's brain, and they're continually going, what does this have to do with me? So, if you're talking about some kind of like we're in LA right now, and there's some kind of issue going on in LA, the person, rather than just talking about the issue itself that's happening in LA, they're gonna keep bringing it back to themselves. So we had a big rainfall a few months ago. So say you're like, yo, the rain's getting crazy. I'm like, well, up at my place doesn't matter. Rather than just talking about the topic itself. Or say you're saying, oh, the rainfall thing, I'm just waiting for you to finish talking so I can give my opinion on the rainfall. Like, well, you know what? Here's my opinion, because I don't actually want to listen or let the other person talk. Or maybe I feel like I'm being like it's some kind of test, like a self-qualifying thing, like I've got that under control. Or
you try to top it with a story. Like you hear a story like, hey, I bought this new thing. And I'm like, how do I pass the test? You know what I bought? Or, oh, I get that you experienced LA, the rainfall, but up in Seattle or in Switzerland, you wouldn't imagine the rain. Mm-hmm. My rain beats your rain. Mm-hmm. No big deal.
Yeah. And the funny thing with that one is like, so say two people are talking, right? The general purpose of conversation socially is to elevate mood. So people who are not cool, they think the purpose of conversation is as a test or as self-qualification.
To win. Yeah.
To win. So people that are cool, they view it like it's to increase the emotion. So if you're like, yo, the rain here is crazy, and then I said, dude, you haven't even seen rain, man, okay? Like, it's in Switzerland, it's super crazy, this is nothing. And then you're like, and it sucks the energy out of the conversation because you're like, wah, wah, wah. Like, okay, well then, good for you. You saw more rain than me. Great. And then the vibe's not going up. So what you have to understand is that this comes back to coping versus thriving. And so somebody who's in a coping mode, they tend to feel more like, what does this have to do with me? What's the test here? When can I talk?
Just very defensive, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Versus when you have somebody in thriving, the underlying, here's the key, the underlying assumption is, I'm fine either way. I don't even need to have this conversation because I have what I need in life. So I'm having this conversation to amuse myself. There's nothing I need to get out of this or to pull out of it. Everything's chill. I'm good. But rather, how could I increase the vibe? And so the example that I've taught it before, you'll hear me say this in videos probably till the day I'm dead, is with coping versus thriving. Whenever I say I'm rushing to the airport and I get into an Uber or a taxi, the Uber might say, how are you doing? And I'm always like, good. Right? Like it's about me. It's just like, good. Like I'm too fucked up over it. Say you just had a breakup or something really messed up just happened and they're like, how are you doing? You're kind of like, good. Because there's there's too many different mental faculties being absorbed to be able to absorb it. Like if you take that guy who just put the plate down right in front of the camera there, this guy's running around here frantically. He's in coping right now. He's like, I got to get the Brussels sprouts here. I got to get to this. He's probably not too thrilled to be doing this kind of work. Maybe, maybe not. But in addition to that, the last thing he's thinking of is like, am I disrupting anything when I slam down the Brussels sprouts even when we're recording here? It's not even like dissing the dude. It's just like, he's busy. And so that's a great example just to happen right then and there, right? Whereas, if everything in your life's going awesome, you're not in some major rush. Maybe you actually are like, well, this thing that they're staring at right now, maybe I shouldn't just slam a Brussels sprout in front of it. So,
or people cut in front of the shots. Like if you shoot in a busy street, like say New York, and you see people rushing to work, right in front of the camera, shameless. And then you'll see someone like maybe on their vacation, touristy, just taking their time, and they'll see the shot and be like, oh, let me walk around, versus, fuck this. Usually I'd walk around, I'm rushing,
Yeah, something we see all the time.
Yeah.
So that being the case, when you're in thriving, say that I'm in a good mood and the Uber says, how are you doing? I say, oh, no, great, man. How are you doing? Because I'm good. So now I'm going to be more focused on him. If you're watching this in a mode right now where you're not feeling super great, the last thing that you want to hear is me or Julien be like, yeah, care more about other people. You're like, dude, I'm in fucking coping. Like, last thing the waiter wants to hear is like, you know, every time you put a plate down, look at where you're putting. He doesn't give a fuck. He just wants to finish his job. But what I'd say to you to kind of to bait you in a little bit is that if you get this down, your social status will actually increase, and you won't have to worry about when's my turn to talk, or is this a test, or how does this affect me, or those things, because you'll just be so good in life that none of this stuff will even matter to you anymore. But weirdly, by having it matter, you're kind of like in this weird spiral. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, like this weird loop that's self-reinforcing, where your social status is lower, versus when you can break out of this, your social status will actually go up.
And you'll feel more energized. Like you think, like if you're in that Uber situation, because I've had it too, where I'm just like really tired. I'm like, ugh, do I want to spend the energy talking back, and not just talking back, asking like, how are you doing? What if he talks more? What if he asks me more questions? It's draining, but in reality, it's like that concern, like, oh, how does this relate to me? Oh, will I have to talk more? Is even more exhausting than just letting it come out and actually asking the person, how are you doing as well?
So we just came up to our new friend's house who we just met on the street. You guys cool with us putting in the video when you came up? Okay, so, all right, so we try to be spontaneous. So he posted on Instagram stories, and then they came up to say hi, and then they were like, yo, we got a cool place up in the crib. So we just came up and we thought we'd finish out the video up here and be spontaneous. The basic thing that I've learned, and this goes for social skills, but it also goes in marketing, I mean, this goes everywhere, is that you've got to stop having a continual focus on your shit, and you've got to get out of that. Okay, so one of my great marketing mentors, it was John Carlton. He had a book called Kick-Ass Copywriting Secrets of a Marketing Rebel. And the big lesson that he'll give in that is that the average person is so caught up in their shit and what's going on with them that they can't market effectively. So Eben Pagan even talks about this too in his marketing stuff, where somebody will have a flower shop and they'll want to name it Jane's Flowers. And then you say, well, what is the feature or benefit that the client would get out of that from Jane's Flowers? And they're like, my name is Jane, and this is my flower shop, and this shop is about me and my life and my journey to create the flowers, right? And so Eben Pagan, he used to run a program called Double Your Dating under the pseudonym David D'Angelo. And so he made his title Double Your Dating. And so it had a value proposition based in it. So sometimes Eben, his real name is Eben Pagan, he's married now, and sometimes Eben would be trying to help somebody in their marketing, and it's like, like say for example that, we had, your program, right? Instead of calling your latest program Transformation Mastery, we would call it like Julien's Journey, right? So we're gonna ask you to pay hundreds of dollars.
For the story of me, watch me transform. Julien's personal transformation and every detail about me.
So you can express yourself, right? So it's not like, yo, we're gonna show you how, even though right now you're stifled and fucked up, your life could look like this and this and this, and you could feel like this and this and this. No. It's not, forget all that. This is about Julien and his journey, right? Now, Julien's journey is good within the context that you can see parallels to your life. And if you're seeing parallels to your life, you're like, damn, it's fucking wow. This is amazing. Hearing about your journey was so inspiring, Julien. If you can correlate that back to your journey and your life. So even like I'll have videos where I'll do like a 2-hour story about my life, but I'll keep bringing it back to the principles that I learned, which are transferable to you. Now, John Carlton also teaches this. He says, what is everybody's favorite word? You. So anytime, for example, that we're speaking, like some people in YouTube videos, for example, a lot of people start their YouTube videos, they go, hey guys, or like, hey everyone. No. This is not fucking hey everyone. I realize a lot of major YouTubers do it, like probably Jenna Marbles or whoever does that. But like, if you gotta get gangster here, you wanna be straight up. It's like, what's up? It's Owen, and what we're gonna teach you today is this. We're not coming at you like, okay guys, oh this fucking, no, you, it's you, okay? And we're gonna smash that in there. And the reason why is because everybody's favorite word is you, or their own name. They even teach us some marketing where they'll actually have little algorithms where in an email, it'll have this little algorithm where if you put your first name in, say it's Julien Blanc, then what you have is it'll say, Julien Blanc, would you like to learn the secret of yada, yada, yada? Now, when we make these videos for you, great, because we are gonna make the video for you. So from that context, you could just soak it up. This video is all about me. That's great. Awesome, right? But for your own social skills, you've got to learn how to get out of your own shit and actually be aware of what the other person's experiencing. And many people simply have not taken the time to really, 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 really consider what is this other person experiencing. Now, you got to be careful with this because some people are so caught up in getting approval that they're like, all they think about is what the other person is experiencing. But it's like kind of this weird way where they're kind of tiptoeing around them and they're afraid of them and they're chasing their approval. And that's not really good either because now the other person just weirded out. But we're speaking about it from a context of studying what that other person's subjective experience of life is and how you can bring value to that.
Well, even in that context there, where it's like they're aware, but like to get approval, it's still about them. It's I'm aware of the other person so they can approve of me, so it reinforces I feel good about me. So it's still like sucking, trying to get for them versus I'm trying to, get a feel for the other person so I can give. It's still like that taking vibe. But no, this is super key. So like shifting your focus outside of your head, because that's really like the 4 concerns. Like, when is it my turn to talk? Is it a test? When are they going to talk about me? It's you, to what's the context? Whether it's a person, whether it's a group, and this is super common, for example, during a seminar, when someone asks a question. You see it immediately. It's like, what's the context? You're here in a big crowd, someone's speaking, and you're asking a question. And I see it more and more throughout the years. People just don't get the context that it is a seminar. They raise their hand, and it's either a question that's unique to them and no one else can relate, or they talk way too long. And at first everyone's like, oh, so what's your question? It's like, hey, so, when you talk about this, and then they go into their life story. When I was like 5 and I could really relate, and everyone's like, and they just don't sense, for example, the vibe just getting sucked out of the room. It's like, okay, this person's going on a little too long because they're in their little head, their little story. I see it too when I give an answer. If it doesn't really hit on, there's what you want, there's what you need. If it doesn't hit on what they want and I'm giving them what they need, they just block it off, waiting to ask the next question. It's absolutely crazy. So shift your focus and always ask yourself, what is the context? What is the context and what is appropriate to the context? And every time you do something that's not appropriate to the context, you're going to suck the air out of the room. And I mean, some examples, whether it's like a question in an audience, another one is if you make a joke. Say I make a joke right now and you laugh, on the other side of your screen, on your cell phone, you laugh. And then I just stop the video. I'm like, by the way, you do get why this is funny, right? It's because this equals this. Just adding that at the end, you're like, okay, you just killed it here. Like that's when you're not aware of a certain context. So shift focuses, and then it's pattern recognition. That's really it. It's trial and error. Put yourself out there, and instead of just blindly just going through the motions, only focusing on you, do something, say something, and then look at what happens. And then get a feel. Oh, when I say this, the person reacts this way. When I say this, that person reacts this way. In this context, the person reacts this way. In this context, the person reacts this way. When I feel this, the person reacts this way. And like really make everything conscious. Get a feel for it. And then once you get a feel and you make the appropriate tweaks, you can make it unconscious again. But this is something you have to do. And one point that I do want to add here is when you hear this, and this is a question I get a lot too, you hear us talk a lot about breaking out of social conditioning. It's like, stop giving a fuck. And then you hear advice like this, where it's like, do give a fuck.
Give a fuck. Care so much that you study their every thought and learn how to connect to where they're at.
Every fucking detail.
But don't give a fuck.
And the subtlety lies in, are you letting this basically confine you? Like, are you letting it affect your self-worth and you're completely stifled? For example, if you go out in a restaurant, a lot of people are like very scared of like even speaking up, or even to the waiter. The waiter comes like, can I have some water, please? Okay. You're being quiet there because you don't have a choice. You're affected by the environment. You're affected by whatever conditioning is there. Here, what we're talking about is don't be attached to that. So your self-worth is not attached to whatever the context is. So if you want to speak loud, you can, and then it's coming from a place of choice. You're aware of the context. You're not imprisoned by it, and then you choose to act in a way that's appropriate so people can relate, so people can get you, and you don't come off as someone who's, again, sucking the air out because you're too, say, quiet or too loud, because that'll happen too. And less people have this. you know, especially with the internet where you spend most of your time now behind a computer screen, on your cell phone. I mean, yeah, even linking it to seminars. If you watch a webinar or a video like this, there's the comment box here below. So it's like whatever comes to mind, you're like, at 2 minutes and 30 seconds, look at what happened, like that. Or just like some like random, like webinars, it's the same thing. It's like UFOs, dick pics, like all this random shit. And then you attend a seminar, and instead of like quietly sitting there, like, here's the context, I'm here with a bunch of people, I'm not alone, you just raise your hand and blurt out shit. Because you're like, where's the chat box? Where's the real life chat box?
I was actually at the Tupac Shakur movie yesterday, and there was this dude that just, it was so crazy, man. Like he just couldn't help but just being like, yo, tell him Pac, and it was like constant. I mean, it made the movie more entertaining, to be honest, but it was like, yeah.
You don't see it like, oh, there's a bunch of other people here, what's appropriate, you know? Less and less people have it. You don't learn it, you don't socialize, and you act basically in the real world with like, you act in the real world thinking you're in the internet world. It's like the rules that are online in the real world, and it just doesn't compute.
What I want you to do is I want you to watch in yourself when you're able to do this and when you're not, and then you'll be able to detect it in other people. So the example that I love giving is I wake up and I've got to catch a flight, right? So, you know, idiot that I am, I've been like packing till too late, packing my supplements and like packing my clothes and all this and like getting ready to go. And so I get to bed at like 5 in the morning if I'm lucky, maybe like 8 in the morning, and the flight, you know, I got to leave for the flight at 11. So I wake up on about 3 hours sleep, and I feel like my face is being kicked in, like, you know, some person on the street is beating me in the face, and I'm just like, get up. I'll go out to the Uber, you know, and the Uber, of course, you know, thank God, you know, since taxi cabs, there's no accountability because there's no 5-star thing, right? With Ubers, usually they're like, how are you doing, sir? Good morning. And if I'm that tired, immediately, I'm just like I actually feel like I'm almost mad at them for even asking, right? Like, how are you doing, right? In my mind, I'm like,
Why are you talking to me?
yeah, just like, leave me alone. I'm like, and so I'm just like, fine. Like, it's because my whole thought process is like in poor me. And so I'm like, good. And
Where's the request silence button?
yeah, that'd be awesome.
Right?
The request.
Dane
and you
Cook
can
joked
put it
about it. It's true. It's like in
Okay.
the app, you're like, request silence.
Really?
It's like, don't talk to me. Actually, be a great update. You're tired, just like,
Yeah, you just say fuck off. It's much to say fuck off. So, okay.
the fuck off feature.
So basically what you have is, I wake up, if I'm exhausted, how are you doing, sir? Fine, or like good, or like not, or like not even like say good, like just okay. And like first of all, dude, when that person said how are you, he doesn't need to hear you say shitty. Like basically, like you at that point you couldn't even contain your own shit, not to be like, shitty, right? Now some people, funny enough, they'd say, you know, well, if you're being real and authentic, then you should just say you feel shitty. Like if you want to say shitty, but then you put a positive spin on it maybe or something like that, it's interesting. But you got to remember, who's it about? It's like when that Uber driver says, how are you? He's just trying to increase the vibe. From there, what you have is when I wake up, alert. And so the guy's like, how are you doing? And then I find that I'm filled with so much energy, I'm thriving so much that, I mean, when I'm really thriving, I'll start cracking up the driver. I'll start making jokes to the driver, cracking him or her up, joking around, having fun, sharing, right? Like if we're sitting here right now and we're having a fun time, you know, it's a nice evening, it's good to meet you guys, I got my team here, everybody's having fun, we want to share. And then you're watching this at home, and then you get to soak that up, you know, or you're watching on your phone, whatever, you get to soak that up. And so it's like a good feeling, right? As opposed to like if we just turn on the fucking thing like today's shitty, which you might like sometimes. Maybe it switches it up a little bit of an unexpected video, but you don't want that as the norm all the time. So coping versus thriving. When you're in coping, you don't have the mental bandwidth to think about the other person's experience. So when the other person's talking, either A, you're just waiting for your turn to talk, B, you're waiting just like how does this affect me? Like what is this? What's my outcome on this? Or you feel like they're testing you or whatever it is, right? So this is the first one my mother ever taught me. My mom didn't teach me a lot of heavy-duty social skills, but she taught me this, and it was actually like something I never forgot as a kid. So my mom came to me one day, and she's like, look, Owen, I got this shirt on sale. What do you think I paid? And in that moment, I'm thinking I'm being tested. I'm like, well, she said it's a sale, so that means it's cheap. So I should just say really low so I don't look dumb. So I'm like, $3. And she says, Owen, when people say it was on sale, what did I pay? Just guess a little bit high, and then when I tell you it's lower, then the emotions go up. So she knew that, I guess. So the idea of it being, look at the two different examples here. Julien, I just got my new old man rainbow shirt on sale. What do you think I paid? What do you guys think I paid on sale? So pick really low.
$2. Wow, $3.
No, still 120 bucks.
Womp, womp.
And then what would you say? And then what would you say?
Still looks wow.
Still cool.
That's really expensive for what it is.
Yeah, that's expensive, right?
That are just
Yeah. I even feel bad now.
Then you double down. That'd
Yeah.
be like, yeah.
Well, no, that
Well, that's what
it
people
was
would say.
still a
Yeah.
good deal.
They would just shut you down. Like, no, that's really expensive. Like, oh my God, you should have gotten that for cheaper. What are you thinking? Look at this website. You could get it here
Yeah.
for cheaper. Just shove it. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, or I remember one time I got a new apartment. It wasn't even like super expensive, but I guess it was more expensive than my buddy had. And so he's like, what do you pay for this? And I said, $2,900 a month. And he's like, dude, I would never pay $2,900 a month for this. Well, why does he say that? He's more in coping.
Yeah.
So he's making it about him. Like it's now, because what's happening is he's looking at it and then he's saying, I'm feeling shitty that I can't afford $2,900 a month. And then I'm questioning myself, would I even need a place like this? And then what's happening is his emotions are going down, and then he's dragging me down into his role. Like at best at that point, what's the best outcome? Like the optimal outcome at that point is I'm like, oh, well, in 11 months, I'll secure a better rent payment. And yeah, you're right. I never should have got this place. So it's the difference. It's like, you know, because just to sort of heavy-handedly berate this example, if I say, I got this on sale, what do you think I paid? And then you're like, $250? And then all of a sudden I go, no, $120. And so emotions go, it's on sale, guess what I paid? $250? No, $150. Wow, great deal. So emotions going up and up and up. So in thriving, the meta frame, okay, the word meta frame, I think that's, do you guys know if that's NLP? Maybe you guys know. I don't know. That's what they call that neuro-linguistic programming. So I think the word meta frame is from NLP. I'm not sure, but the idea of the meta frame is that there's an underlying meaning to it. Okay, there's an unconscious subcommunication. So typically, the underlying communication when you're viewing it as a test or waiting for your turn to talk or making it about you is you're in coping. So you're a low status person. You're not, and therefore people get negative emotions from you on two levels. One is that you're saying all this shit, making it about you, which, you know, like dissing their price of their rent or whatever, so they're not liking what you're saying. But it's also hitting them on another level, which is that people want to be around other high status people. When you have high status, you walk down the street and people say, not to like be weird, come to my house and shoot in it. And when people have low status, people say, here's a quarter, go away. Or not even here's a quarter, just go away. It's like they say that, you know, the hungry don't get fed. Meanwhile, if some, you know, if Leo DiCaprio walked into the restaurant that we were in today, he'd probably get a free meal for eating there, when ironically he doesn't need it. He'd have girls trying to fuck him when he already has too many girls trying to fuck him. Meanwhile, a guy who's broke either isn't let in the restaurant and no girls want to fuck him, even though he needs sex and he needs food very badly, right? So you want to be in that upward spiral where even things that you don't need, people are offering to you. So if there's an underlying meta frame of coping that's there, not only are you saying things that would be perceived to the other person as potentially negative or at least not very uplifting, but also they don't feel like they're around somebody of status, which then it kind of takes away that halo effect that somebody of status has. And so you're getting hit on multiple levels. And so, I mean, fundamentally, you've got to make a decision that you've got to work on yourself to where you're okay, both in terms of actually making your life okay on the outside, but also shifting your inner perspective to feel good on the inside, starting right now.
It's also valuing feeling good and just talking or say interaction with someone with the purpose of just feeling even better. You know, because we come at it very logically. It's like, well, what do I get out of it? What's the point? Just feeling good. That's it. Like one, you know, mission I used to, you know, give guys all the time when it comes to, say, going out and interacting with girls is go out one night and go out with your friends. Usually, like, you go out with your wingman, you know, your buddy you're going to go talk to girls with. Go out with that friend, sit at a table in a bar, and for the whole night, so you go out at 10 to 2, that's 4 hours. Don't get a single drink and don't talk to a single girl. Just sit there with your buddy and see if you can just chat and shoot the shit. And most guys just wouldn't be able to.
Well, you had a thing you used to do when you would teach live events for success with women, where sometimes you'd see guys that only would want to talk to women that they're really attracted to.
Well, that's
and
it,
and you spent 2 of the 3 days making them talk to women who they weren't into. Could you explain the rationale behind that? Because probably no one will ever want to attend your program ever again now, but there was a point.
No, well, they go hand in hand. It's like just vibing, like shooting the shit, getting out of this logical, what can I get? It's like you're there with your buddy, there's nothing you can get. You're just stuck there, and most guys would not be able to shoot the shit. They'd be like, so, there's, I can't fuck you. How's it going, I guess? And they just can't generate that. And it's the same with...
So they're not getting something out of it.
Exactly.
They can't even muster the will
Yeah,
to
it's like if
try,
I'm not getting anything, like if you got a dick, why am I even talking to you? Type of
like the
thing,
Uber thing, right? I'm tired.
Yeah.
He says, "How are you?" Why should I say, "How are you?" back?
Yeah, it's
I'm
like, what are you
tired.
gonna get out of an Uber driver? And that's why I even say, like, you just stay at the table, not talking to girls, because if there's, say, some goal, then you two can like shoot the shit talking about a goal, because you know you're getting something out of that goal. But when there's no goal and you're just stuck there, can you vibe? And it's the same reason I would tell guys who only wanted to interact with girls, they found attractive. I'm like, hey, talk to the girls you're not attracted to as well. Learn to see the value in that. Even though, yeah, you might not be attracted sexually, you can still shoot the shit and build positive emotions.
Yeah, and what you're trying to do there is
Get out of this taking, like,
yes.
looking at-
Well, you're trying to get them from coping to thriving, because, ironically, if for the first 2 days they're talking to girls they're not attracted to, what happens? Essentially, they're forced to start just having fun with people, and then what happens on the 3rd day when you let them talk to the girls they're into?
Kill it immediately. It's like that's usually, when you go from like an intermediate to an advanced, you go through that phase where you have to learn how to have genuine fun talking to everyone and stop judging them and thinking about the outcome all the time. And it links to what you were saying before. It's like if you are thriving, you don't need anything. You have your shit fucking handled. It's like you have your shit so handled you can afford to let that pour over onto the other person. And that's what you do. It's like you talk to everyone, you feel amazing, and then you go to that girl, say you're attracted to, you're like, hey, how's it going? Boom, she gets the good vibes, good emotions, you just hit it off, versus scanning, closed off, defensive, like, why would I talk to her? What do I get out of that? Would I get something out of that? Why would I talk to this person? And you're just judging, and it's just, again, in this coping, just, kind of sad reality, And it's also understanding that the more you give, even in terms of, say, selfish needs here, the more you give, the more you get. And it's not like must conserve resources.
Because the
trying to
hungry
give a
don't
little
get
bit
fed.
more.
Versus Leo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
Did you guys say he's your neighbor?
You go to the next hill over.
Cool.
next-
So basically, Leo DiCaprio, it's like, Leo, come in, take the food, Leo. Versus, the guy who just can't get a freaking dime to save his life. If you're in a mode where you wake up in the morning and try this as an experiment, okay? Like you just look at your hands for a second. You guys could even try this back there if you want to, okay? Look at your hands. Look at all the little, we'll even get you to do this too. Why not, right? So look, put in the light, look at the weird fucking lines in your hand there, right? Look at the little micro hairs that you never notice, or little lines in your skin here, for me, freckles that you never notice. And even just try touching your hand in some
smooth and
masturbatory way.
perfect.
Yes.
Young skin, young flesh.
This is how I get Aaron to do this with me in the morning without looking
Just do
inappropriate.
this with us.
Yeah. Okay, do it with us.
Just pet your
Okay.
hand.
Touch it. Touch your hand. It's not gay if it's just to learn about self-help. Just touch it now. And so, this guy. And then just take, look at the fire here for a minute and observe the fire and kind of let that in and just enjoy the fire for a minute. Maybe Aaron, if you want, you could just pop the camera. Just pop the camera over here for a second and, look outside at the beautiful view. So now you're seeing downtown Los Angeles. It's kind of the most beautiful. You can even pop outside for a second if you want to. In some ways, the most beautiful city in the world. I love it. In some ways, a third world country. It's a mix. Let's not focus on that. I'm sure you guys that's occurred to you before. So then basically, so just look at the beauty of that. Take a deep breath right now. Take a deep breath with me. Just take a nice deep breath. Just look deep in my pupils right now. Okay, it's not gay if it's for self-help. So just keep looking deep in my pupils right now. If you're a girl, just hit me up on Instagram. I'd love to hear from you. And it's not Sex of the Weird Guru if it's for self-help. So just talk, okay, as you can see. And that is how you get gratitude. Essentially, your mind has to shift into being grateful for what you have going for you right now, okay? So, because you could think, I don't have this, I don't have that, I need better food, and I need to have a better life, I need a Lamborghini and knowledge right now. You could make a choice to focus on what you don't have, or you can focus on what you do have. Now, as you're focusing on what you do have, you're feeling really, really good. And now you don't need to get something out of somebody. Now, as you don't feel like you need to get something out of somebody, the meta frame shifts to where you're the cool person, and then they begin to seek your approval. So you go from being like a black hole to the sun emanating out. And that doesn't mean that you need to go start pandering to them and over complimenting, because really that's about taking. But so when people say be yourself, the translation that means to me is like, enjoy your fucking life and feel good and enjoy the fucking cool shit that is your short fucking life, and then share that with others as you, as yourself. That's what it means to me. It doesn't mean, be yourself, like be all fucking negative and fucked up, and then talk about your toxic shit.
With this state of gratitude too, by the way, and this is huge, be aware of how you're conditioned just with mainstream media and social media. It's like we buy into, for example, like Instagram. You'll go on Instagram and you're like, how can I be grateful when this person's doing this and this and this and their life is so amazing, and look at how they look, although they have a filter and it's been photoshopped, look at how they look versus me. And you just focus on everything you don't have. You turn on the news, you look at everyone just getting fucked over, all the horrible things happening, how this person's being oppressed and that person's being oppressed, and you're like, oh my God. And it just conditions you to not be grateful, to complain, to the point where you could be, link it to success with women, out in an amazing club, let's just say in Los Angeles, like one of the top clubs, with cool people, surrounded by cool people. There's music, there's lights, like everything there is designed for you to have a great time, and you're just sitting there just feeling horrible, just trying to take to feel better, just fuck this, I need this, I'm missing this, versus whoa, take a second and actually take it in. Here I am in fucking Los Angeles, oh my God. And this is something, like even like Instagram will take that away from you if you buy into that. Like focus on complaining, focus on what you don't have. How about focus on what you do have? Or
looking at Instagram and thinking of it in terms of lack rather than possibility. Yeah. Like that's why I like say Thai stuff, because some people look at it in terms of lack, like I don't have that Lamborghini. Yeah. When I see it, I'm thinking in terms of possibility. I'm like, dude, that's so sick that you did that.
Yeah, lack versus possibility. And this is something I do every single day. It's like, just reflect back on your life, like where you are now here today versus say yesterday, the day before, and shift your perspective too. Just say reading books, like even reading like really dark and horrible books, and this sounds kind of fucked and morbid, but like say you read Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, like the most horrible things ever, but it really puts you in your place with the shit you're complaining about. It's like we have such first world problems. I saw it today just at the grocery store. Some lady was like yelling at the person who was like bagging her groceries because she didn't bag it correctly, and she was being charged like, what is it, 5-10 cents for an extra bag. And she's like, why is this here? Like flipping out. I'm like, God, it's like just, to be in that state where you can just bitch and complain about just that.
Well, it truly is the ultimate coping. Yeah. And you see that a lot at the airport when people miss their flight and they need to get it rebooked. And it's like, yo, dude, this airport worker is not like United corporate. This is not Continental Airlines corporate. And this person's like, it's like like almost like in Star Wars, you have the stormtroopers, and like it's okay to kill all the stormtroopers because they kind of look like a robot. So people start to think that an employee of a corporation is like a robot, or like when these terrorists like go, blow up a Boston Marathon or something. Like it's like the Americans, and it's like there's so much in coping that they just view that as like not even a person. Yeah. And so it takes a minute, like.
Actually, even with the Uber driver, it's like if you're in coping, you're in the Uber driver, you don't even view that person as a person.
Yeah, it's Uber.
Yeah, if you actually thought, wait a minute, that's another human being, what might that person be thinking or feeling right now? Suddenly there's a lot more connection. There's like that human to human connection. You'll be more inspired to just, hey, doing good, what about you? Versus, fuck this person. It's just you alone. It's like, there's another person. What if you were that person? So on the practical side, from now on, what you're gonna do is go out, and this challenge sounds so simple, but it'll change your fucking life. Every single day, start interacting with, say, 3 people you don't know. Just 3 people you don't know, chat with them. You know, you're at the grocery store, instead of, say, yelling at the person bagging your groceries, ask them, hey, how's your day going? Just talk to 3 people in a way where you're just sharing some good fucking emotions. And when you do, look at their reactions. Put yourself in their shoes and look at their reactions and ask yourself, what are they thinking? What are they feeling? And one thing that helps massively is just look for tenseness and look in their eyes. If they're kind of tensing or maybe looking to the side, like, okay, maybe you should change something. Or if they're too bored, like looseness, maybe you should change something. Okay, for example, if you start asking a question at the seminar, and I use this example because I see it every weekend, and someone goes a little too long into their backstory. At first, the crowd's like, okay, we're listening, and then after a while, they'll either cringe, like, okay, shut up now, or just tune out. That's when you gotta shift things and let go of being attached to finish whatever the fuck you're saying. Shift things and realize, whoa, I just made it about me, okay? Also, bring some awareness to what you're saying and why you're saying it. What's your intention behind what you're saying? Is it about you, or is it to give? Okay, is it, wait, I'm saying this to impress. Oh, I'm saying this to reinforce the story of me. I'm saying this because I just want to hear myself talk. Okay, be aware. Even when someone shares good news, if you ask yourself, how can I relate this to me? Okay, that's great news, but you know how this applies to me versus can you just let it be?
And notice the differences. One is a dopamine spike energy, where you're in a low vibration state and you're trying to spike your dopamine by putting it on you. Whereas if you're already in like a peaceful present state, you're not relying on those dopamine spikes, so you're less likely to do that. That's a very, very, very subtle point, because we're describing the subjective experience of making this shift. One is low vibration state, and then like make it about you to get a dopamine spike. It's kind of like this little mini dirty high. Don't shame yourself for it, but just understand it. Versus being in a present state and seeing what emerges from you in a natural way.
Yeah, and it's learning how to meet your own needs and make yourself feel good on your own. You know, I used to call this, here's a great one, emotional masturbation. Where literally, best example, everyone who's in coping, it's like they want to come and they can't masturbate. So they're literally walking around like, can you jack me off right now? I really need to come. Like, I really, can you do it? Like, anyone? Like, please, I really need to come. Please, please, please. Like, trying to do anything to just come. You know, and they're walking around, you just feel it, like the neediness, like, no, go. Once.
So it's hand job solicitation.
Literally.
Emotional hand job solicitation.
And then you're trying to figure out ways like, well, what if I say this? Would they jack me off if I say that? What if I pretend to smile? Would they jack me off? You're just looking for someone to jack you off without realizing that, hey, you can jack yourself off.
That was beautiful, man.
For real. It's like, you got to realize you can jack yourself off.
And by the way, it's not gay if it's for self-help. So keep going.
Well, no, then instead of like going up to someone like, will you jack me off? You're already jacking off. You're like, hey, join in on the fun. And then you just like jack each other off. And
I know that like I would do almost anything to make a video shocking. I'm tempted if we just but we're not gonna do it. Okay.
No, but it's true. It's like, that's the difference in the vibe. You know, is someone coming up to you and you feel the need that they want, like they need to be jacked off, or are they being jacked off?
So do you want to look like the guy that needs to jack off? Or are you going to be the guy that can jack himself off? And you've got to choose, and you've got to draw that line and know who you are. Okay, and
by the way, no, link into this too. Another one is not taking things too fucking seriously. Taking things way too seriously. Like someone here's like, well, wait a minute. I don't know about this joke. It's not very appropriate. Or, well, get back to talking seriously. What's this laughing? Why are you wasting my time, me watching you laugh in this
ultimate
video?
sign of coping, they don't like jokes in the video. Because it's like, where's this fucking jack off thing, man? I'm struggling. It's almost like you went up to a homeless person and you're about to give him $1. And then you're like, do you want to hear about my little joke first? Before you get the buck? And they're like, give me the fucking buck. Yeah. And you're like, come on, let's do it, guys. Let's look at the fire and look at downtown before you get the buck. And he's like, just give me a fucking, I need a drink. You know, and you're like, yeah, downtown, come on, yeah, you know, and it's just like, it's like, what the fuck? So that's why we do a lot of jokes in videos, is we're actually trying to give you a bit of a shift in perspective. We're actually trying to demonstrate, just clown around like that, like our humor is our fucking fucked up, like West Coast Hollywood humor. You always want to ask yourself, am I offering value, good emotions, or am I being responsive to the situation? So like the example that you gave there with the grocery clerk, in coping, you're probably staring at your fucking phone. Huge sign of coping, just staring at your phone. I do it too, man. Okay, I wish, you know, everybody, like the whole room's gonna go quiet right now. Like, the room's like, yeah. But like, you know, if I'm being real, yeah, you know, like when I'm like, if I'm fucking hungry as shit waiting at the restaurant, I'm kind of like, just like kind of waiting for the minutes to go by. When I'm having a great time, I'm less likely to be inclined to do that. So if you're staring at, staring at your phone, being in this kind of like suppressed state, you're not thinking, what does the situation need, right? So when the waiter comes, when you're in a coping state, you're gonna stare at your phone, you're gonna mumble your order and not make them laugh and not make them have fun. In a thriving state, you're gonna probably be coming from a frame of like, the waiter's here. This is a difficult job, as that Brussels sprouts guy earlier showed us, right? He's scrambling all over. And how can I share and shed some good energy into this situation? Now, whenever I'm in the situation where, you know, say I'm at valet parking and, you know, say I'm gonna give a guy a tip or something like that, the way that I tend to be is I wanna feel that guy, even in valet parking, is feeling really, really good. Yeah. You know, I'm gonna make him laugh a little bit. I'm gonna make the clerk laugh. I'm gonna, like, sometimes like one of the kind of funny things I love to do is with an old lady, like if she's enjoying it and like consenting and happy about the whole thing, is I'll start like flirting with her, like really nasty and stuff like that. And a lot of times they're like, oh, I'm like, oh yeah, you know, like this, like it's an 80-year-old woman, right? And at the end they're just like, thank you, oh, that was amazing. You know, like just anything you can do to lighten people's day. But what's funny is as the energy is always moving, you're drawing up more energy and you're sharing more energy. So the basic frame is how to offer value, good emotions, or be responsive to situations. Let's bring it back to your seminar example, right? One guy puts his hand up. You're in New York City in Manhattan, and he says, I came here from Iowa, and I live on a farm, and there's the neighbor 10 miles down, I want to fuck her behind the haystack. So I thought I would ask, you know, I thought the 600 people here could benefit from you talking for half an hour about sex and dating with a cow and a haystack, a female cow. And you could give the half-hour answer, but there's two problems. First, like the room's energy, it's gonna suck the energy out of the room, but I mean, unless it was hella funny, which could be good. But then in addition to that, he's now being trained that when you don't ignore the vibe of when you don't take mind of the energy of the room, and then you make it about you, you're gonna be rewarded. And so there's an instinct as a teacher where you're like, you know, I will sit here for hours with you answering whatever you want. I will do anything to help you. But if I do this, it's like a kid acting up, and then you give them a bunch of cookies for acting up. You're not helping them. So you're almost always gonna go back to that same challenge of explaining to them this basic thing of you gotta offer value, good emotions, or what the situation is. So what would be a great example is a question. If you got 500 people there, a question that everybody, like let's take a pause, okay? So let's do some genius shit here. Let's take a pause. A, does the question benefit the whole group? B,
can the whole group hear me? Am I smiling? Or is it, so my question is this, blah. You know?
Yeah, like freaking out the room essentially, right?
Yeah, it's like loud enough so they all hear you, smiling, like adding the good emotions versus taking those emotions away.
If that guy has a question that made the room laugh, awesome. If the guy has a question that the room could all benefit from, awesome. Study what other people want to experience. Study it. Study other people. What emotional state is that person addicted to? What is that person's ego and self-image like? What are they trying to get out of this situation? Where are they going? What are their priorities? What is their existing worldview? How can what emotions do they want to experience? What do they want to experience from a person? And how can I be myself and maintain my own personal boundaries and authenticity, but find a win-win to where I could share that with them and we experience it together, and really just coming from a basic frame that I got what I need. Because like when I see celebrities out, I remember I saw Vince Vaughn out. He just walks up, like everybody in the room loves him. He's just like, good to meet you, friend. Like he walks up to me, good to meet you, friend. Not an ounce of neediness coming from the guy because he has what he needs, but in doing so, he just further solidifies his own godlike status. And that's really what we're trying to show you here is how to solidify that fucking godlike status where you're just the fucking shit. You're the shit. Because you got what you need and everybody wants to be friends with you because you always bring that great energy.
So start now. Are you laughing or are you in your head? Are you still wondering, how does this all relate to me? Or can you perhaps smile? Perhaps enjoy the fun that was shared, the message underneath the words.
It was fucking amazing. This was huge for me. This was so important.
This gave me by far the greatest happiness I've ever had.
And we got like real deep and I found some issues within myself. One of the best things I've seen so far in my life.
He's made me realize some of the things that I had been suppressing for almost my entire life.
This here, like if you remember this and you take it with you, like that's what you need. You can't bullshit your subconscious. Until you fully accept and release and go through and experience all the stuff you've suppressed, you're always going to be escaping. When the fuck do we actually sit down, really get in touch with what's going on, and like experience it? Where else are you gonna let loose like this? Where else? And where else are there gonna be other people who push you to let loose even more? Nowhere. Everything outside this room is telling you to do the opposite. As soon as you leave this room, you're back in society, back in a place where people tell you to shut the fuck up. They tell you everything that's wrong about you. They tell you to fit in. I don't care what is authentic to you, just keep it to yourself. You don't deserve it. Don't be happier than everyone else. Fit in. Ah! Now talk. Bring it. Ah! Yeah!
This is the type of place that shows you what's possible.